What's up, beautiful people? It's your boy Gippetto back in the building. How y'all doing? So, look, y'all, I had an entire 30-minute video reacting to the Monique Club Shay Shay interview, but with this whole debacle between Monique's first son um, coming out and blasting her for pretty much essentially lying, I kind of have a new perspective on everything that happened. So I'm kind of glad that video didn't upload because I tried to upload the video and it didn't work. And I'll be very honest with you, the whole situation with Monique and her son, it triggered me because I too have an estranged relationship with my mother for pretty much the same thing. And I was reading the comments, and I'm somebody, as y'all can see from previous videos, I've been in Monique's corner. Like, yes, Monique, hold them accountable. You were telling the truth. Blah, 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 blah. But this is a situation where two things can be right at the same time. Yes, we champion you because you're not backing down. You're speaking for what's right. You're going against the man. Because even in the other interview, I had like elaborated on like, my thoughts. Like I was saying, I was thinking that maybe Oprah and Tyler Perry, it might be a combination of pride and they just feel like they don't have to answer to Monique because they don't want to fall on the sword publicly, in which they want to apologize to Monique. And I even spoke about an incident I had with somebody on Will Packer's team that was extremely nasty to me. Um, and I also know somebody who worked on the set of the Monique film that where the trailers blew up, and I backed Monique up. That definitely did happen, and I know somebody who was on that set who gave me a whole bunch of information that is not mine to tell. But you could be a truth teller in one hand, but you also could be somebody that haven't fixed all the truths and swept in front of your own front porch. So with currently Monique has 4 kids. Monique's oldest son, I think he's like 34, 35, and he's come out and pretty much slammed Monique for the Club Shay Shay interview. And Monique has definitely said in previous interviews, like, hey, you know what? In regards to my first son, I wasn't the best mother. I messed up. I wasn't there for him. XYZ, XYZ. Other people had to raise him. I was too busy, trying to become a comedian. I was too busy on the road. I was too busy living the life or whatever. And I want to play some of Monique's son's Instagram.
That she did, where she states and she prays to the universe in regards to reconciling our relationship, as I stated, is odd. My mother and I both know that that is a very false narrative, and I would like to free her of having to continue telling that lie.
Come on, these damn ads. My bad, y'all.
Faith without work is dead, and neither one of us cares to put forth any effort to reconcile with the other. We are separate, as she put it, because she doesn't care to be my mother any more than I care to be her son. Neither one of us has had the desire to reach out to the other in a very long time, and I don't think that either of us anticipates that feeling ever returning. Speaking with my mother directly, in my experience, will either lead to some odd newfound moment of clarity in regards to how she was as my mother, or she retreats back to daddy to move forward with a conversation. And I'm tired of hearing my mother's truths. Newsflash, I'm not sure if people know, but standing in your truth doesn't make you noble. I'm not sure if people are aware of that. But responding this way, I feel as though it allows me to say my piece uninterrupted. To those wondering, well, why say something now? Call it a form of therapy for me, I suppose. But when her daddy had intentionally stated that they have 3 sons, but his wife is on the internet talking about the 4th son in a video that has millions of views, that rubbed me the wrong way. But anyway, to inform a child that you are not interested in being a mother at a time when that kid is the only kid that has the potential to lead a child to believe that you are not interested in them specifically. But to take it a step further, you also admit, my mother had also admitted to me that she didn't do the best job that she could do, which would also make one begin to question, all of your past decisions and prior emotional interactions. But to be completely honest and fair, those were things that I was willing to get over. Nobody's perfect. We're all human. But my mother showed a clear lack of humility, compassion, and consideration when taking any level of accountability for those things.
Okay. That video triggered me because I kind of have a relationship with my mother in the reverse, because this young man, he is Monique's oldest son, and pretty much Monique has admitted she didn't do right by him. She was too busy pursuing her career and whatnot. When she finally got her career, got everything together, and then she met Daddy, which is insane, Sidney, that y'all got us, Monique got us calling this man Daddy. She decided to, quote unquote, do things the right way. So she put forth an extra effort to be a good mom, spending time with the kids she had with Daddy, making sure that her children were a priority in her life. Now, I don't think a lot of parents understand. This is why, and women, y'all might get mad at me for this, and this is one of the reasons why I don't have kids yet. When you have kids, and I know things happen, people get in relationships, fall out of relationships. When you have kids with different people or whatever, a lot of times a child always feels slighted. So let me break down my family dynamic. And like I said, I'm similar to Monique's son in the sense, but in the reverse. I'm my mother's youngest child, right? My mom had, and this video is not to bash my mother, I'm just telling my truth. A lot of my childhood is going to be in the book that I hope I could finish this year. It's a book I want to write about my life that I keep starting and stopping, but it's just a lot. I'm my mother's youngest child, and there's a significant age gap between my siblings and I, and it's even a worse age gap on my father's side. On my mother's side, there's a 13 plus year age gap between my siblings and I. So, and also my mother and my father had me at an older age, right? I don't care and I'm not going to tell my mom's age because my mom is very private like that. But my mom had me at an age where most women aren't having kids. And then my dad was even way older than my mom. Like when my dad passed away when I was young, my dad looked really young. So my dad had I think my mom thought my dad was around her age, but my dad was like a decade plus older. So my dad had moved to a different island and kind of started a new life. And then my dad pretty much created a new age even, which is, crazy. But my dad looked really young. That's why when his actual death certificate and all this stuff came out, people were shocked that my dad was older than what he was. But my mother wouldn't admit this, but I'm positive I was a oops baby. I was a oops baby, and it's not nothing for me to feel bad about. Like, I wasn't planned. I think my mom was at a point in her life where she didn't want to be a mother anymore. And now she has all these teenagers, and now she has to start all over again with this young child. So by the time I was 4 and 5, all my siblings were grown. So even though I grew up with siblings, I kind of was raised like an only child. Because I wasn't raised with my siblings. So I was 13 plus years younger than my siblings. When my siblings got grown and I was becoming like, turning 6, 7, 8, 9, my siblings start to have kids. So then there's a 8 or 9 year age gap between my nieces and nephews. So I was too young to grow up with my siblings, but I was too old to like really grow up with my nieces and nephews, which is my mom's grandkids. So I was kind of raised as an only child, pretty much. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had a really fucked up childhood because, and for any American viewers, y'all might not understand this, and I know y'all had Big Mama and y'all might have grown up in a strict household, but when you have a foreign parent and you grow up outside of America, so my mother's from South America, and people who have similar background, if you're Caribbean, if you're African or Asian, I think the three of us, we all kind of grow up with like that similar toxic, hyper disciplinary type parent where your parent talks to you crazy, is quick to whoop your ass for every little thing. They're just very, it's a very toxic way of raising kids, and they don't apologize. And I know people like to talk shit about soft parenting, but like in the Caribbean, especially where I'm from, children didn't have a voice. When I'm a millennial, when I was being raised, late 90s, 2000s, at that point in time, teachers could still hit us. So imagine going to school and getting your ass whooped from your teachers and then coming home and then getting your ass whooped from your parent. You know what I mean? And y'all know I always film in my bathroom, my damn toilet. My bad, y'all. My bad. And my mother, I feel like she just didn't want to be a parent anymore. And my mom was a very toxic parent. My mom was, and this is not to slander my mom, I'm just speaking my truth. Like, my mom was extremely abusive, physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally, My mom was just like the epitome of an angry black woman. My mom would just come home yelling, screaming, whooping ass, and then my siblings, they dealt with that too, but at least my siblings, they had each other growing up. I was by myself. And then like what Monique's son goes on to say is like, Monique fucked up his childhood, but then she did it right with her other sons. So now they have the full nuclear family. Monique, you have daddy, you have her kids, and Monique is making strides. Now she has money. Now she's taking time off to make her kids a priority. Monique doesn't understand that is triggering for a child to see that. Imagine if you had a parent who didn't have time for you, but then years later she has other kids with her husband that's not your dad, and all of a sudden everything that you didn't get, she gives to the kids, and then all she has for you is like, yeah, my bad, I messed up, I was too busy. And a lot of parents have this mentality where they fuck up on one child and they try to make it right. Like I said, I just know, and I've tried, and the reason why I can't have a good relationship with my mother until she holds herself accountable is the fact that my mom was such a mean person. Like I'm not trying to say my mom is a horrible person. My mom has very good traits about her, like my work ethic, my like regalness, my thought process on certain things, and my self-reliance comes from my mother. Like there's certain things my mom embedded in me that I'm gonna give it to her. I got from her. And I remember one of my older siblings, like it was another situation where I had gotten into it with my mom. And mind you, like I said, all my siblings are grown and I'm there in the house with my mother by myself. And I called my sibling crying, and my sibling was like, look, little bro, you just got to deal with it. We all dealt with it. And yeah, we know mommy has gotten worse, but you know, she's older and you know, she's just a cranky woman. You just got to deal with it. Just wait until you're 18. And I was just like, I had nobody to protect me. My mom was just always angry. Now, my mom had a come to Jesus moment like when I became older. When I became an adult, I had cut my mom off when I was 18. I didn't plan on having a relationship with her. And then I grew up like the church saved me. I was like into church really heavy when I was young. And when I had cut my family off and because I had resentment towards my siblings, because some of my older siblings, they definitely tried to like, at one point in time, I was begging my mom to let me go live with one of my siblings or another family member because me and my mom's relationship was so toxic. We was always arguing. She would just tell me the most fucked up things, and then like she just would tell me no. So then I'm like, if you and I don't get along, why are you keeping me here? I don't want to be here. Like and my mom, when I was younger, I was a very sensitive child. So my mom knew exactly what to say to just break my spirit. Like sometimes I sit back and when I interact with kids, you know, nieces, nephews, a godchild, or like my friends' kids, and I see a young kid and I just remember some of the shit my mom used to say to me, some of the shit that my mom used to do to me. I can't even comprehend doing that to a child. And the same way Monique's son said, like, look, me and my mom don't have a relationship, but then, you know, I go and I view this Club Shay Shay interview that has millions of views. I get triggered by it, and you're not telling the truth. A lot of parents do fucked up shit, and then, especially that older generation. I don't know if that's like the baby boom, because Monique is about 60. My mom is older than Monique, but my mom is from that older generation. My mom is from the older generation, and my mom is from the Caribbean, well, South America. So just to let you guys know, foreign parents, and again, if you're African, if you're West Indian, if you're Asian, they don't apologize for shit. They could have did some fucked up shit for you. They're kind of like, so what? I'm your parent, move on, get over it. And what I love about us millennials, we're like, nah, fuck that. We got to talk about it. Like, you need to apologize, you know. I'm holding you accountable. And that generation, they believe in keeping the bodies buried. They believe in like not apologizing. And that's one of the main reasons I have a strange relationship with my mother. So Monique's son pretty much was like, look, we don't have a relationship. My brothers, who his younger brothers, and I don't even share a similar view of you because they had the great mom. I didn't have that. And while, yeah, you might have helped me with money, that doesn't replace all the years of neglect and all the fucked up shit you did. Very similar to what my mother did. My mom had a come to Jesus moment when I was about like, I know I was already out of her house. And my mom went from this super mean, ready to hit you, cuss you out, degrade you, embarrass you type of person to my mom became very meek, very like soft-spoken, very much Mother Teresa, which was like weird to me. And I remember I remember even one of my siblings telling me like, yeah, mommy changed. I don't know what happened, but at a point in time, a lot of people in my mom's life were dying. Friends, family members dying, and I don't know if it was in tandem with just her own personal growth and maybe some health issues. I don't know, because my mom is an extremely private person, but my mom definitely changed. I saw the change in my mom, but she had changed behavior with zero apologies and zero accountability. So when I would be talking to her and I would bring up stuff that she did to me in my childhood, my mom would immediately be like, oh my gosh, why are you bringing this up? Like, that's in the past. You got to let that go. Like, I got to go. I can't be on the phone. Now you're raising my blood pressure. My mom would never want to have the conversation. And my mom has this revisionist history type of vibe where she would think, she kind of just like made peace with herself, and she would kind of totally sanitize how things happen, and it would trigger me. Let me give y'all an example. Growing up, like I mentioned earlier, in the Caribbean, when I was in school, teachers could hit you. And then when I was in 5th grade, I had this one particular male teacher. He was an awful teacher. I would say his bitch ass name now, but I'm not. But this teacher, he used to call us stupid, yell at us, talk crazy to us, hit us with a paddle, all this type of stuff. Several of my classmates, he would make us cry in the class. Several of my classmates had told their parents, and even to the point where like several of the parents came up to the school trying to fight the man, and took their kids out of the class. And I would always come home and I would tell my mom, Mom, I don't want to be in Mr. So-and-so's class. I don't want to be in Mr. So-and-so's class. Can you please take me out? My mom wasn't really like I said, my mom wasn't really an active parent with me. So my mom was just like, like, leave me alone. No, you just probably talking too much in school, blah, 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 blah. And if he calls me, I'm going to go to the school and I'm going to beat you and I'm going to embarrass you. That was my mom's response. So I complained about this man all the time. I had to stay in the man's class. Fast forward, years later, my sibling has a son who ends up going to the same elementary school and ends up having the same teacher. So I'm an adult now. And my mother calls me and she's like, hey, I had to go up to your old elementary school and everybody was asking about you. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, well, why did I like, oh, what happened? She like, well, your nephew goes to your old school. And I was like, yeah. She like, guess what? Remember the teacher you didn't like, Mr. So-and-so, that used to always come home and cry and complain about? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, well, he ended up having that teacher. And your nephew came home complaining about him and crying about him. So, me and your sibling had to go up to the school to have a parent-teacher conference with the principal and his teacher. And we were speaking about what, he was doing to your nephew, right? And I told the teacher, and I know that is true because, you remember so-and-so? And the teacher said, yeah. He was like, yeah, that's my son. And that's his uncle. And he used to come home and complain about you all the time. So I know my grandchild isn't lying. And I told my mother, I was like, but when I was a kid and I was complaining to you and crying to you, you didn't listen to me. And I could immediately hear my mother like, and she's like, oh, but it was a different time. I might have been too busy at work. And I said, but I told you that man treated me like shit and you didn't believe me. But for your grandchild, you're going over and above. And now you call him and you have the audacity to call me like you did something good. She immediately triggered me and I went off on my mom, right? And it's things like that parents do that they don't understand. It's because my mom had a very problematic thing she used to do where my mom would always believe the adult in the room when I was a child. And that's very dangerous. So my mom would always take the teacher's side, the whoever's side. And then I've been vindicated in many of the situations because I'll be honest with you, I've always been opinionated, even in a tiny island in the middle of the sea. I spoke up for myself. And in the Caribbean, again, with foreign parents, and every time a child speaks up for themselves, you are kind of interpreted as rude. So I share that similarity with Monique, and it's just a lot of shit. Like, y'all don't, like, when I write my book and I put the shit out, and it's not to drag my mom, it's really, like, my book is literally for situations like this, because there's, the trope is, oh, these black men with these mamas who baby them. Yes, you have a segment of black women who baby their sons, but there's also another segment of black women who treat their sons like shit. And there's a lot of black men walking around here damaged, broken. Like, I'm telling you straight up, I know so many men that are like traumatized from their childhood from what their mothers did to them. And then these are the same men who end up not being healed, and they get into a relationship with women and treat women like shit. And I'm going to say something very controversial, and this is very true. This is what I'm hearing. This is for my black women out here who listen to me. A lot of black men, because of how troubled their relationship was with their mom, they don't want black women anymore. Not saying that's me, but I know a lot of black men who are like, and I'm talking about successful black men, brothers who got stuff going on for themselves, jobs, houses. They just like, I don't want to deal with a black woman. I already had my mom. I had my aunties. I'm good. I'm going to go find me a white girl. I'm going to go find me a Latina girl. I have had successful black men tell me and some of the homies, don't marry you no bitter black woman. That's going to ruin your life. So I'm just letting y'all know that cycle needs to be broken. And Monique is an example of somebody where two things could be right. Like, Monique, yes, I'm going to rally behind you. Yes, I feel like Monique was right for speaking up against Lionsgate, Tyler Perry, Oprah, and Lee Daniels. I'm glad that Lee Daniels apologized and Monique is getting vindication. But Monique, you also have to not just own up and say, well, yeah, I didn't do right by my son. You have to put in the work. And this mentality of like, oh, well, you're a grown man. Childhood trauma doesn't end at 18. And I'm sorry, when you have a kid, you're a parent for life. You might not be a provider for life, but you're still a parent. This mentality that just because somebody is grown, that somebody still can be parented is wild. Monique herself said her daddy is raising her to be a woman. So if you're a big grown 40, 50 something year old woman that got with a man who raised you, you don't think a son who was traumatized needs some more parenting, counseling, apology, accountability, change behavior, you putting in the effort to make stuff right with your son? And if I'm getting heated, y'all, like, it's just so much. Like I said, I very much relate to Monique's son, and it's a lot of us that do. And like, I don't know, it needs to be a lot of parents from that older generation that need to start accepting responsibility, holding themselves accountable, listening to their children, letting their children get their frustrations out, going to counseling, and trying to be a parent. Because this whole mentality of parents like, I did the best I could do, that's all I could do, and hey, I'll let God bring it back. That's bullshit. Fuck that. So I'm going to send good love and energy to Monique's son. Monique, you and that husband of yours, Monique, man, Sidney or daddy or whatever, you need to stay out of Monique and her son's business, bro. I don't give a damn if you were the uncle, dad, or whatever. Let that woman make shit right with her son. But anyway, y'all, I'm a little heated. I'm about to go grab something to eat. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.